Hello everybody, welcome back to Clay Comms. We're here tonight for the Purple Sector Formula 1 League. This is round 2 of this 24 round season here for season 13 across all platforms here on the F1 25 game. We're here in Shanghai tonight for the Chinese Grand Prix, the Shanghai International Circuit. Looks like we've got a dry qualifying to kick the night off here, so these 14 drivers should know a thing or two about this track in the dry conditions. It's a track that I quite enjoy, and it's quite a conventional Grand Prix circuit as well, quite an old-fashioned, well, I say it now, obviously it's only been around for about 20 years, this circuit. It's a very it's a Hilkerdrome, is what they refer to as. The purpose-built race circuits designed by Hermann Tilke, very common in the 90s and the 2000s, and one or two in the 2010s as well, and this is just one of them here. So we should be in for a bit of a cracker here tonight. We're looking forward to China. Always a good race, easy to overtake enough. 2 DRS zones, both of them are viable overtaking opportunities. A wide circuit as well, lots of heavy braking zones, especially even down into that one we just saw. You can definitely get a move done. We've seen a couple of overtakes through this corner here, this long left-hander on the entry to it, although not so much there, not unless you've got a significant tyre delta, which will help you to power past. But nonetheless, yeah, this should be a good one here tonight. I would normally read the championship standings. Unfortunately, because I'm using my phone to operate the PlayStation, it means that I can't actually get the standings up, which is a bit of a ball ache. I was kind of rushing back from somewhere to get on the mic here, so I haven't really had a chance to do much prep. Next time I'll just print out the standings and then have them next to me, but yeah, sorry about that everybody. But yeah, round 2 of the season. Obviously we kicked off the season on Tuesday night. We've got the reigning champion back with us, which is great to see. So Glenn is on track, obviously was there for the practice race last week, but then obviously couldn't make the season opener this week at Australia, but is back out on the track, and we'll be looking to try and reel in that gap which Justify has managed to build since Australia on Tuesday night, which was a phenomenal round for Justify. Ended up taking quite a dominant win in the end, kind of walked away with it in the last stint, but we'll hopefully see that Freddie will be a bit closer tonight. Obviously Freddie was second on, third, sorry, should I say, on Tuesday. He was running second for a lot of the race, and then pitted late on, what I can only assume was damage repairs. Ended up coming in third behind Davidoff, who ended up in P2 after starting in 7th on the grid, which you have to say is a very good performance from Davidoff. Let's see what he can do with a better qualifying maybe this time out. Hopefully he'll be able to put himself in a bit of a better position here to challenge from the get-go here. Let's obviously keep an eye on Davidoff over the course of tonight. One driver who I'm absolutely certain will be hoping for a better night tonight is Matty Pitt, the champion from 2 seasons ago, and one of the owners and founders of the Purple Sector F1 League as well. So he'll be looking to really try and kickstart his championship after a very shaky start on Tuesday night at Melbourne. And also Mark as well, because Mark ended up out of the race on the first lap after showing some promise actually before that. So yeah, definitely we'll be keeping an eye on Mark tonight. Yeah, so should be interesting. We've got a few drivers coming towards the end of their qualifying laps at the moment. C14 is just coming into the final corner. We've got Drauger putting the first time on the board at 1 minute 34.3. Let's see what C Fortner does. 34.1 from Davidoff, 39.2 from C Fortner. So C Fortner, I think that's not a representative lap time there from him at all. So Davidoff currently setting the pace, 2/10 of the Drauger, as White Shadow Hull goes into 3rd place there on a 36.5. And Matty Pitt has just gone quickest by 0.4 of a second, so clearly a step above Davidoff at the moment, but a long way to go here in this session. Still lots of times to be coming in. We've got John coming over the line, P4 on a 35.3, so he's currently 1.6 seconds off of that fastest time being set by Matty. G.C. there with a lovely lap, moves up into 2nd place there on a 34.0, so he's 0.3 shy of the provisional pole time at the moment. 7 cars having put a time on the board, and we see Mark's just gone P1, 33.6. Said earlier on, Mark showed some glimpses of promise here on Tuesday night, and ended up crashing out of the race on the opening lap, but that is definitely the start he would have wanted to tonight. Glenn there goes up into P1 now on a 33.4, so the reigning champion showing that he's got plenty of pace on this F125 game. F124 was his bread and butter, and it appears like F125 is certainly going that way as well. Let's see who else has put a time on the board here. Justify's gone into 4th on a 33.7. Tuesday night's runaway race winner at the Australian Grand Prix, so can he repeat the feat here tonight in Shanghai? But that's the 11 cars so far having put times on the board. We've got Street Boy just starting a lap, as is per with Street Boy and Rexy Boy, the two Ferrari drivers, is they tend to not do their laps with everybody else. They tend to wait until the first runs have happened, and then they do their flying laps when everyone else is on their in lap. So obviously you get a free track in terms of there's no other cars on laps, but you also have to weave in and out of all the traffic of drivers who are trying to get back to the pits. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to this strategy. It can work, but the problem is that although you get a more rubbered in track, you also get less runs than the rest of them as well. So you get less opportunities, less bites of the cherry to try and show your hand. But nonetheless, we've got Rexy Boy a little bit further up than Street Boy. So the two Ferraris now coming through this never-ending right-hander. That will take them out onto the very long back straight, and then we'll see exactly where they stand. Very similar to what you saw on Tuesday night. You got the two Ferraris going after everybody else, and you got Freddie not doing a lap at all in the first run. So Freddie clearly is not interested in going out on a track, on a dirty track. He wants to wait until that track is rubbered in before he gets himself out on the circuit. So he's not interested at all in going out at the moment by the looks of things. But we've got Rexy Boy coming out of the final corner here, about to complete his lap. What is it going to be for Rexy Boy? He goes P1. Look at that. So the track rubbering in has clearly worked out over Rexy Boy. Goes less than a tenth quicker than Glenn as Street Boy backed out of his lap and is into the pit. So not going to be an improvement there for Street Boys. Freddie lets us know in the comments on the YouTube stream there he's having wheel problems, so he's currently trying to sort those out before he can get out on the track. That explains it. I was thinking that he's waiting for the track to rubber in, but that's not the case. So Freddie currently sat in the pits. He might only, I mean, who knows how many runs he's going to get in this session, but if these wheel problems persist, there's no guarantee that he'll get out there before this qualifying session is over. Only 10 minutes left on the clock, so he needs to get his skates on here with this with these repairs. If any wheel technicians out there, then yeah, definitely I'd recommend coming to Freddie's aid ASAP. But nonetheless, as we say, 10 minutes to go in this session. We've got Justify back out on the track again, the winner from Tuesday night's race in Australia. Let's jump on board here. Justify showed some really strong pace on Tuesday night, so he'll be looking to try and replicate that here tonight if possible, as he comes through towards the end of the first sector here. Let's get the graphic up, which tells us what the lap time data is, because that could be pretty pivotal here. Andy Fox says, "You on the bevy tonight?" No. Why on earth makes you think that? Honestly, I'm shocked that you would even think it. I mean, genuinely, I'm not. But just for the avoidance of doubt. But I'm surprised you'd even consider it, because no, definitely not. No, you'd know 100%. I'll be slurring my words. I'll be walking off every couple of minutes, and I'd feel the need to mention it at least 5 times a minute as well. I'd feel the need to mention it at least, quite regularly, to keep everyone in the loop, just to clarify the fact that, the reason why my incompetence was there was because of something other than my own actual natural deficiencies. Anyway, we've got Justify coming into the hairpin, misses the apex a little bit, but solidly turned in, and let's see if he can put it on provisional pole here. I think he's a little way adrift, and I don't think he's quite there. He's coming into the pits, so he's definitely not going to be on pole. So in comes Justify, and he's mentioning of the old days. Well, to be fair, oh shit, there was only one particular howler in terms of drink. That was the Imola race from, I think was it last season or 2 seasons ago? I can't remember now. I think it was last year anyway. I'm sure might have been this year. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. But yeah, the Imola stream was the low point. But yeah, since then I think I've been sober for all the streams. He says, "Where's Ian?" Ian, I actually don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. He should be back soon. I haven't actually invited him to join me for the last couple of streams, but from not next week, the one after that, he should be back on the stream, so you guys will be able to enjoy not just myself, but also the dulcet tones of my Scotsman friend Ian. But Mark goes into third place with that lap, so he's currently 2/10 off for the fastest time, being set by Rexy Boy. Matty Pitt has gone into P4. Looks like he's coming in at the end of this lap because, yeah, I don't think he's on his 3/10 down coming to the middle sector, so he's not going to be improving this time around. But yeah, Ian, hopefully you'll be joining me soon. He has not been fired. There's been no bad blood or anything. Yeah, he will be back absolutely 100%. It's never over until it's over. So yeah, Ian will be back on the stream in due course. But Matty's always staying on the lap here, so despite being down through that middle sector, Matty's sticking with it. Is he going to be an improvement? He does improve very fractionally there by 0.03 of a second. So Matty Pitt for the time being stays in 4th place. But the fact that he was 3/10 down and still improved on his lap shows that there is time to be found. At least 3/10 that he could find on that lap, which would currently put him on pole as it stands. So if he hadn't lost that 3/10 in the first 2 sectors, he would have been on pole there. So Matty Pitt's definitely, it's going to be a boost to him knowing that the time is there. We got Glenn now in 2nd place, obviously less than 1/10 of a second off of Rexy Boy, because Rexy Boy took pole off of him when he was on pole before. But Glenn is currently 600ths down through the middle sector, so he's currently on a decent lap. If he could find a 10th, or 2/10 now, because Mark's got on provisional pole, then he'll be on pole. But Mark has just extended the margin here, so very good lap time there from Mark. As we see him, he's just on his way into the pits at the end of this lap. But Glenn coming down the long back straight, can he find the 3/10 that he needs to be able to try and take pole position here? Let's see as he comes into the hairpin. You alright?
You know where you...
So Glenn is about to turn into the final corner here. He's currently...
Where your 90s are.
Sorry, my nan's just trolling in the background there. I do apologise for everyone. As Glenn stays in 3rd place for the time being. Sorry,
Do you know where your 90s are?
do bear with me a second, everybody. I do apologise for this. No. I don't have any 90s. I don't wear 90s. Right? What's going on?
There's this things.
I don't wear 90s, do I? Hey? Okay? So I can't help. Why? Have you run out? Have you run out of 90s?
Is there anything there?
I haven't got any 90s. I don't wear a 90. Do I?
But do you know where any of...
No. What is it you need exactly?
Then?
You've got one on. Why do you need another one? Hey?
That's not what I've got.
No, just stick with what you got. That's perfectly fine. Alright, that's perfectly fine. Alright?
I don't know.
Alright. I do apologise for that, everybody. We are back here. So Mark currently on provisional pole by 1/10.5 over Rexy Boy in 2nd place. We see G.C.'s gone into 4th place. So that's a very good lap there from G.C. Only 3/10 off for the fastest time there. Being set by Mark. Cleanse into the pits at the end of his run. Justify, we know, is on a bit of an offbeat from the others in terms of run plans here. So let's see if Justify can go a little bit quicker here. Currently 700ths up through the middle sector, as he now gets it stopped into the hairpin. So let's see what Justify can put on the board here. Coming through into the final corner now, our race winner from Tuesday night, the season opener, and can he put it on pole here in China? Coming over the line now, Justify, he just misses out there by 0.2 of a second, so pretty close there to the front, but not quite there. But it's pretty damn close at the top, I've got to say. You've got only 0.4 of a second separating the top 6, so it's very, very tight here in this qualifying session. But Mark currently leading the way I'm sure a bit charged up from his first lap retirement in Australia. He's looking to try and right the wrongs of Tuesday night, and is doing so very admirably so far, but lots of drivers out there who'll be wanting to take it away from him as we're approaching the final runs of the session. Now drivers will be coming out on the track to make their final stake, their final claim for pole position here. We've got Matty out on the track for his final run, also Davidoff's out there as well, T's also out on the track now as well. We see Drauga's on a flying lap, so let's see what Drauga's doing as he's coming through the first sector here. Only driver on a flying lap at the moment. So Drauga currently in 9th place, 1.1 seconds off of the provisional pole time, currently 3/10 up through the first sector, so as it stands will be moving himself up the order quite a bit here. If he can carry on that sort of momentum, then we'll be seeing him putting it possibly on the front 2 rows, but that sort of improvement is hard to keep up over the course of a lap. So let's keep a close eye here on the Haas car, as he's still the only driver on an actual flying lap at the moment. Everybody else is on an out lap. Just seeing news there popping up on the screen that Freddie has retired from the qualifying session. That means that Freddie will be starting this Chinese Grand Prix from the back of the grid, which is going to make his life just a little bit more harder than what I'm sure he'd want. As we see Drauga here coming out onto the long back straight here. So he's currently 9th here in this session. Can he improve a little bit here? We've got C. Faulkner and Matty Pitt now on flying laps, so their times will be coming in shortly. Drauga here into the hairpin. Very nicely through there. Just managing to clip that apex beautifully as he came through that corner. Now through the final corner comes Drauga. Onto the power. And this is a good lap here from Drauga. I've got to say, he's going to be up there. He goes into P5, so 0.3 of a second off of that fastest time. Where is C. Faulkner? I think it's either C. Faulkner or Matty that's going to be over the line next to finish a lap. So it looks like C. Faulkner will be the first driver to finish a lap here, as he's 7/10 up through the middle sector. So as it stands here, C. Faulkner, well, his best so far was quite a long way off. So as it stands, it wouldn't move him even above Davidoff. But if he continues that sort of gain, then he'll be certainly in the mix here. So C. Faulkner coming down towards the final hairpin. Let's see how he handles this. No lockups, gets it nicely in. Wasn't quite as tight as we saw a few moments ago from Drauga, but C. Faulkner now into the final corner. Let's see what he can do here as he comes up towards the line now. C. Faulkner into the 33s, puts it P9, so a little way off. 0.6 off of the provisional pole time at the moment. It's a very close qualifying session here, that's for sure. Matty will be next over the line, and he's gone into 4th place there as Matty. So a decent job there from him, front 2 rows as it stands, but there's still lots of drivers out there on lap times. The provisional pole sitters going through the middle sector at the moment. You've got Rexy Boy also going through the middle sector, as the reigning champion Glenn is coming out onto the back straight. He's got a driver just in front of him here, which is Sauber. But order unchanged at the top of this leaderboard at the moment. Glenn now coming down towards the hairpin. But it's the Sauber of John who's giving him the tow as they come down towards the hairpin. Glenn now has got just this final corner to go. And let's see how he negotiates it then. Reigning champion here. I'll tell you what, this is a heck of a quick lap here as he comes over the line. Is it going to be pole? It is going to be pole. Glenn there, 2.5 tenths ahead of Mark, and he has now set the new benchmark here. So the reigning champion here doing a phenomenal job here in qualifying at Shanghai. Missed out for the race on Tuesday night for Australia for the opening round of the season, but he's well and truly making up for it so far, as we see the previous pole sitter here. Mark is now coming into the final corner. Can he take back what was his a few moments ago? Here he comes up towards the line. He misses out by, he was a little bit slower than his previous time there, just a fraction slower than what he'd done before. Justifies done. He's hit the checkered flag, so I think that's going to be that. I think what we see on the leaderboard there is going to be the final order here. So it is going to be Glenn on pole ahead of Mark in second, Rexy Boy and Justify third and fourth, and then you've got Matty Pitt. Is he going to improve here at the end of this session? I think he's on, no, he's on an in lap, so yeah, he's done for the session. I think that's going to be our lot then, folks. So that is going to be Glenn on pole, Mark second with Rexy Boy third and Justify fourth, and Glenn there just nicking it from Mark right at the end. Mark may have thought he had that one in the bag. I don't know if it'd be his first, if it would have been his first pole at Purple Sector. I certainly haven't seen him on pole before, but I don't know if he's taken one that was raced behind closed doors, or whether this is actually his first pole here. But nonetheless, it wouldn't have been, and it isn't, or sorry, it isn't, and I'm not sure if it would have been. But Glenn, a driver who we've seen on top spot many times over the last couple of seasons, is once again in that position. So well done to him, and kicking off his season reasonably well after missing the first round on Tuesday night at Australia. So now Glenn in the box seat here to try and convert what is a very advantageous grid position, and we'll have to see how it all develops. But Glenn, Mark, Rexy Boy, Justify, Matty pick your top 5 with Drauga, G.C. Davidoff, T and C Faulkner the top 10. Street Boy ahead of John with White Shadow Hole, and Freddie will round out the grid there in P14.
The formation lap gets underway then, and it's going to be interesting today to see how the dry conditions could affect the lifespan of the tyres.
So here we go, everybody. We're just going to go for the formation lap here in Shanghai for this Chinese Grand Prix here for the Purple Sector Formula 1 League. This is round 2 of season 13 here tonight. We've got the reigning champion Glenn starting on the front row alongside Mark. They're both on the medium tyres. A few of the drivers behind them on the hard tyres, so these two will be wanting to get away and get as much of a gap as they can in the first few laps whilst those medium tyres have their advantage. But are they going to spend the first few laps fighting amongst each other and stopping each other from being able to make the most of those faster tyres? That's the thing that I could see potentially happening here. But we're lining up on the grid here as we're about to start round 2 of season 13 here at Purple Sector. So here we go, lights coming on ahead of the grid. We're about to go racing here for the Chinese Grand Prix. It's lights out, we're underway, and Glenn didn't get a great start there, but then again neither did Marcus. They're going to be pretty much as they were into turn 1. We can see in the background there, there's a move being shaped up as G.C. and Davidoff are running closely there, and we see Davidoff onto the grass a little bit on the inside of G.C. and G.C. is going to have the inside for the final part of this section, and holds on there. But we can see out the front we've got Glenn leading ahead of Mark with Rexy Boy. They're P3 at the moment, so they've held position. Davidoff here is going to try and make the move on Justify. Is he going to make that one stick there? As Justify there staying ahead for the time being. Davidoff just not being able to make the move there. And G.C. has dropped down a few places, down to P10. So G.C. in all of that has tumbled down the order here. He's now running just ahead of John in P10. So what looked like it might be a promising start there hasn't really worked out too well for him so far, but it's Glenn out the front by just under a second ahead of Mark, so he's already starting to extend here. That's quite a big gap on the first lap of a race. You got Rexy Boy ahead of Matty Pitt with Justify, as we see a move being shaped up there. Gilo looking down the inside here of C Faulkner. Is he going to make that one stick? I think he might have it done. No, C Faulkner's keeping himself there as they come through this next sequence, this long right-hander, and round the outside goes G.C. with that preferred line. Gets that move done up into 9th place. Nicely done there from him, and it's a long road to recovery in this race after that first lap. But we see Davidoff there moving ahead of Justify up into P5 as he's up the inside here into the hairpin. Is that going to be job done? It is job done there for Davidoff, as we can now see in the background. We've got a Salva there looking down the inside, John, and he's lost it there as John, as he went a little bit too hot into the hairpin and couldn't get the car turned. In the end, the contact was what sent him round, but he took too much speed into the corner, and John down to last place here at the end of the opening lap. But as we see the leaders coming through turn 1, and pretty tidy from the leaders so far. Glenn, Mark, Rexy Boy, Matty Pitt, no dramas there from any of them. Davidoff moving ahead of Justify up into P5. Justify still keeping him on his toes at the moment. You got the likes of Drauger and T behind them, and a bit of a gap back to G.C. who had that disastrous first sector of the lap, and is currently picking up the pieces here ahead of C Faulkner in 10th place. And Freddie's made up a few places on this opening lap. He's up into 11th from 14th on the grid, with White Shadow Hull in 12th ahead of Street Boy, and John running at the back after that disaster going into the hairpin at the end of lap 1. But Matty Pitt here hassling the back of Rexy Boy as they're coming through this middle part of the lap here, and he'll surely fancy a move in the DRS down the long straight in a few moments' time. He's really put a piling of pressure on the back of the Ferrari, which seems like it's not really able to keep up with the likes of Glenn and Mark at the moment. Obviously Glenn and Mark on the medium tyre, which is going to be giving them a slight pace advantage at this point, but that advantage will start to wither out as over the course of the stint. So you've just got to kind of ride it out if you're on the hard tyres, and in fact Rexy Boy is on the hards, but Matty and Davidoff are both on the mediums. So that's why Matty's looking so eager to get on with this, as he now looks down the inside and he's going to make that move before we can get to the corner, and Davidoff follows him through as well there. So Matty and Davidoff making those positions, as in the background there you've got the Ferrari of Rexy Boy trying to defend from Justify and Drago, who are both on the hard tyres as well. So the only medium runner who isn't right at the top of the leaderboard is T, who's currently running just behind Rexy Boy, Justify and Drago. He'll also be wanting to get a move on here in his opening few laps, because those tyres will lose their advantage over the course of the stint. That is guaranteed. We know how this works, as Justify has made this move on Rexy Boy. Has he made it stick though? He has made it stick there. Swoops around the outside and up into 5th place goes Justify, as Drago looking racy on the back of Rexy Boy as well. But Justify now the highest runner of the hard tyre runners, and the medium runners of Glenn, Mark, Matty and Davidoff are currently 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, as Davidoff's trying to put the pressure here on the back of Matty in this fight for 3rd place. But Matty and Davidoff dropping off of Glenn and Mark a little bit in the opening laps. Is that because they had to navigate through traffic? Maybe now we might see these two start to match the leaders, but we'll have to see as this thing goes on, because Glenn has really made a break for it in his opening couple of laps, and he needed to, because missing the opening round on Tuesday night, he finds himself on the back foot a little bit in terms of the championship. So it's going to be a long way back here from him if he's to bring himself back into the championship fight. Justify is also not giving up here on the back of Davidoff, who got a bit of a shaky run coming through that section. Who's going to get the DRS? I'm not sure where the detection point is. I think, well, Davidoff's definitely not going to have it, because he was ahead through that whole sequence. So here comes Justify, and he's going to breeze past down the back straight. And I'll tell you what, he's going to be vulnerable here as Davidoff, because he's lost out to Rexy Boy as well. We're riding aboard with Drauger, who's just behind them, and we can see there Rexy Boy down the inside of Justify in front of them. Justify getting pushed out a little bit, and he's lost out to Davidoff as a result there. Justify's not going to be happy with that one. He definitely received a bit of a shove there from Rexy Boy, and he's down to P6 as Drauger there goes very wide. T might fancy a move here on Drauger into turn 1. He's going to look to the outside now, and is T going to have this one done? He's got the slipstream there off of Justify, and that helps him out an absolute treat, and up into P7 he goes. Although Drago's not done yet, as you can see he's back down the inside, and gets that one back there for 7th place. So great racing in his opening couple of laps, really clean stuff from these guys up the front mostly, albeit maybe Justify's not too happy about that move with Rexy Boy, because Rexy Boy definitely gave him a bit of a shove as they came out of the hairpin. The question is though, was it his own etiquette that caused that, or was it Rexy Boy being a little bit rude? We'll have to wait and see what the stewards think of that one. But nonetheless, Glenn is out the front with a second ever gap over Mark, and Matty Pitt Currently 3 seconds off of the lead there, running in third place. He's in turn a couple of seconds ahead of this long battle here from 4th all the way down to 8th place. There's 5 cars, and in fact it could soon be a 7-car train, because C. Faulkner and G.C. are also closing up onto the back of them. You can see in the background there, these two are not far away at all. But it is currently Glenn who still has the lead right now, settling into a bit of a rhythm. A gap, a second and a half. It's maintaining between these two at the moment, but Matty is consistently about 3 seconds off of the lead, so he appears to be matching the leader. But is he going to be able to close that gap down to Mark? Mark won't have DRS if he does, which will help Matty enormously here. It's much easier to overtake a car in front of you if it doesn't have DRS. That's a well-known fact of being in a DRS train. It can be the most frustrating experience you'll experience in an F1 car. So the gap 1.2 at the moment between the top two. And again, Matty's still about 3 seconds behind, but I'll tell you what, Mark has gained a bit on Glenn over the last lap or so. He just appears to be that little bit closer here. Glenn, obviously being the leader, you know, you can sometimes be at risk of switching off a bit when you haven't got anyone around you, but he has been alone for most of this race so far. Although Mark is keeping tabs with him, he's keeping a watchful eye on the race leader at the moment. Tuesday night's runaway race winner, Justify, currently stuck in the mid-pack at the moment, trying to look for a way past Davidoff, but Justify is on the slower hard tyres, so that will be beneficial for him later in this stint. He'll obviously have a stint on the mediums at the end, which will be good for him, as we see there Davidoff getting it a little bit wrong going through this section. He'll have the DRS though to defend, because Rexy Boy is less than a second in front of him, so can Justify make the move anyway? He's got the move, he's got the slipstream here. And he's going to look now down the inside. Justify surely is going to have P5 in the bag here. Down the inside he goes and pushes Davidoff a little bit wide, and they're going to get absolutely mugged there by Drauga, who swoops through up into P5 and says, "Thank you very much, boys. Whilst you battle and whilst you faff about, I'm going to take P5." And very, very happy, I'm sure, is he with that one. So now Dragon can try and chase down Rexboy for P4, whilst the two that he just passed score behind him as Justify looking to the inside of Dragon into turn 1, too far away there, and can't make that immediate return there up into P5. But Davidoff there losing out massively because he's on the medium tyres, so he's going to be it's going to really hurt him being in this traffic, because obviously he's on the faster tyre. This is the part of the race where he'd really be wanting to make the most of having that faster tyre. As we now see T looking to the inside, is this going to be job done here? T on Davidoff. Davidoff there keeping it around the outside. These two both on the mediums and both stuck in a battle that I'm sure neither of them really wants at this point in the race. And T can't keep it around the outside of Davidoff for the time being, has to tuck in, and it's as you were between those two at the moment. Gap between Glenn and Mark staying the same. Mark is keeping Glenn really, really close at the moment. He's making sure that Glenn doesn't get anywhere outside of where he can keep an eye on him. We've got Rexy Boy still just keeping Drauga at bay at the moment, but Drauga's going to certainly be piling that pressure on. Likewise Justify, as this is a 3-car train here for 4th place, and they're all on the hard tyres, so these three are in a very strong position. Rexy Boy, Drauga, Justify strategically are certainly in a good place at the moment, as long as they don't fight each other too hard and hold each other up. As we see T and Davidoff side by side are into the hairpin. T trying to make that move. Oh, and there's a bit of contact there and a bit of bodywork as well, flying off of the car. Davidoff's now lost out to G.C. after as a result of that contact, as we now see T and G.C. making contact there going into the final corner. T just squeezing G.C. to the edge of the track, and there was definitely a bit of carbon fibre coming off of G.C.'s car there. As he now come back down towards turn 1 again, Davidoff down the inside of G.C. and he's going to make the move here, and Davidoff had to back out of the move there on T there, thought about it, in the end thought better of it. That's now cost him through the second part of turn 1, and G.C. side by side with him as they come through on the exit of this first section of the track here. And it looks like Davidoff still can't shake him off here, as G.C. going to have the inside for this next corner, and surely is going to have it done on the brakes here. Here we go, the Red Bull up the inside. Oh, and he gets his braking point all wrong and shoves T in the rear there. That would have done him a lot more damage than what it did T, because the front wing, as we know, is far more vulnerable than the rear wing, and G.C. is going to be suffering from major downforce loss as a result of that, as he gets passed around the outside by Davidoff. Now C. Faulkner is going to fancy a bit of this as well here, so G.C. starting on the hard tyres, that could not have gone much worse for him. If he started on the mediums, he might have been able to put the hards on and try and get them to the end, albeit they'd be battered by the end. But if he's starting on the hards, he's going to have to two-stop now, surely, unless he longs this out, unless he grits his teeth, gets his tyre or gets that front wing to the end of this stint. But then that would be a heck of a long stint. He'd have to do at least sort of 9 or 10 more laps on these tyres with that front wing damaged like it is. So is G.C. going to come into the pits? Let's obviously wait and see, but yeah, that's not the way that he would have planned this stint to go. I can absolutely guarantee you with that, as Davidoff down the inside of T into the hairpin. And is T going to have a chance to come back at him? T looking to the outside now into the final corner. Davidoff is going to come into the pits. Now is G.C. in? No, G.C. stays out. But Davidoff there into the pit lane here at the end of lap 7. So he's trying to avoid the traffic here, is Davidoff, which you can kind of understand. It makes a lot of sense, to be perfectly honest. And Davidoff's changing the front wing, so he's got damage on the car as well. So he's going for the hards, and off and away he goes. I imagine he'll try and go to the end from here. The tyres will be battered by the end, but he'll get a bit of an undercut for the time being. The mediums would have probably lost a bit of grip at this point, so it would make sense. He'll probably be a little bit quicker than the medium runners at this stage. He'll certainly be quicker than the hard runners. As we see, Rexy Boy has just moved ahead of Drauga here, so these two still fighting over 4th place as they're coming down this little straight which leads into the final sector. Drauga having a look there on Rexy Boy, but just a little bit too far away at the moment. So as they come down the long straight, and Drauga with DRS here on Rexy Boy, a little bit too far away to make a move at the end of the straight. I think he's going to be forced to the outside here. He's trying it, but not quite in a position to do that. Is he going to go for a cutback? Not happening for the time being, as C. Fortin has moved ahead of T up into P7. But we're going to go back to this battle here, because Drauga is chasing down Rexy Boy. Oh, he goes very wide there, really wide out the final corner, but didn't lose any momentum at all, which would have surely got him a warning for track limits. He's now up the inside, and look at that, so is Justify there, who swoops around both of them and moves up into 4th place. So Justify there absolutely mugging the pair of them up into 4th place. Great move there from him, as obviously all of these guys, as we said before, on the hard tyres, they're slower at the moment, but they'll reap the benefits later on in the race. They're currently 7-8 seconds off of the leaders, the likes of Glenn and Mark. Matty keeping tabs with the top two at the moment. The gap is consistently stayed around 3 seconds between Glenn, Mark and Matty Pitt. So these three could still all be in with a shout of this race win, but they've got to watch out for that trio of hard runners, Justify, Drauga and Rexy Boy. I reckon there's still realistically 6 drivers in with a shout of winning this race here tonight. There's still a lot at play, and a safety car could extend that to probably about 9 or 10. So yeah, still plenty to play for here tonight in this Chinese Grand Prix at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League. I believe Matty took the win at this track last season. I don't want to curse him, but I believe it was Matty that brought home the 25 points in last season's renewal of the Chinese Grand Prix here at the Purple Sector F1 League. I do vaguely remember there being a few safety cars and a few bits of action, but if memory serves me correctly, I think it was this man here that won. As we see in the background there, we've got Justify being passed by Drauga, and Drauga is now back up into 4th place, although Justify gets a very nice cutback here, saying that not enough momentum there. He's going to now get DRS down the main straight. I think he might have backed out of that one there, as he's now going to get the full rear wing open, and surely a chance at the same place he made a move on the last lap. And here we go, Justify up the inside, and he's going to make that move into turn 1, into 4th place once again, as he goes a little bit wide through the corner. Is that going to invite Drauga in? Drauga's having a look. He's not going to be able to make that one happen there. So Justify back up into P4 here. See some great action here from these drivers tonight. Some really close racing, mostly very clean as well. Oh, for a second there I thought that was Glenn. It's not. It is Glenn. What's happened to him? Oh my goodness. Jesus Christ. What has gone on here with Glenn? He's clearly had a moment of some sort. He doesn't have any damage on the car, so what has happened? It can't be a tyre, it can't be a puncture. I mean, it's only 9 laps in. What has happened here to Glenn? Does anybody know what's happened to Glenn? He's just dropped down to 3rd place. His car looks fine, but he's just dropped a couple of places there. Seemed really slow. He's got understeer. What is going on here? Is it a puncture? It looks like it's very hard to tell if it is. Well, Glenn is down to 3rd place. Mark now leads with Matty Pitt into 2nd place. And Glenn is really struggling here. He's got the likes of Justify, Drago and Rexiboy right with him here. As now Justify is going to make the move down the long straight, and Drago's going to follow him through. I would have thought Rexiboy will be able to follow suit. But Glenn is really struggling here as he's all over the place into the hairpin. And he's got a 10-second penalty now for corner cutting as well. Suddenly, the reigning champion, the man who was seemingly getting things right here tonight after not being here on Tuesday, is now into the pits. What on earth has happened? That must be a puncture. I think this is the right front, but it's not very clear. Well, that is absolutely unbelievable. Or is it the left front? Either way, Glenn is into the pits here. So that is absolutely unbelievable stuff there. He's lost a lot of time, and he's lost a load of places there before he came in. So he's now serving that 10-second penalty. Now, is there anything other than tyres that go onto this car? Because that car looked fine. There was nothing wrong with the bodywork. The front wing was fine. It could only have been a puncture. Where on earth he got that from, I don't know. But it was a puncture, and it's not very clear. The graphic on this game doesn't really show punctures very clearly, so it wasn't that obvious. But I think it was the left front, which had gone. But either way, Glenn is now really on the back foot here in this race, as we see White Shadow Hull's got a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings there, track limits. But the big news with all of that happening is Mark is now leading. Matty Pitt came in for a scheduled stop there as well, so he's now put the hards on. Wow, I mean, the mediums clearly can go this far, because T's still out there going on the mediums, 11 laps in. The Mark is also still going on his mediums, so the mediums go this long. It's not an issue of tyres by the looks of it. It's something has obviously happened. Glenn has obviously hit a spot on the track, has maybe dipped a wheel on the grass or something, but that is a really strange one. As we see Mark now in the pits. Is T going to also come in? No, because his teammate's in the pits, so he can't. So Mark is in the pits for some hards, and T is now the only driver still out on the track who started on the mediums who hasn't pitted. In fact, there's only 4 drivers who started on the hards who haven't pitted. So that is Justified, Drago, Rexiboy and Freddy. And so the strategy now starting to unveil here. But it's Justified leading ahead of Drago at the moment. These guys started on the hard tyres. They've gapped Rexiboy a little bit. Rexiboy's just dropped out of this fight here ever so slightly. He's not a million miles away though, for sure. But now your net race leader is essentially Matty Pitt is now the race leader, the net race leader. He's got a massive undercut on Mark. He came in a lap earlier. He was a second behind him. He's now 2 seconds ahead of him. So clearly the undercut is very advantageous around here. And the medium tyres do appear to be a little bit shaky, because Glenn getting a puncture after 10 laps. I mean, he's had drivers who have gone a lap longer than him, so seems strange. But nonetheless, we continue on with Justify and Drago battling over what's currently the lead. These guys have got a medium stint to come, but based on what we've just seen, I don't think they're going to be in a rush to put them on. But the top two here coming through the final corner here, about to complete lap 12 of the race. And Drago here getting closer to the back here of oh, in fact, he's into the pits actually. So Drago there coming in at the end of lap 12. So he's obviously 2 stopping. And T also in. So now he's the last runner who started on the medium tyres to come in. And the medium's clearly showing some kind of issue. But he's coming in for some hards, and off and away he goes. So I would have thought he'd be going to the end of the race from here, barring any major catastrophes in this race. But currently Matty, the net race leader, Justify and Rexiboy still yet to pit here in this race. They started on the hard tyres, they're still out there. So Rexiboy has had a Bit of a mare in the last couple of laps, that's got to be said, because he was right with Justify in the early stages, and Drauga as well, so yeah, he's really dropped out of that fight here as Rexy Boy, currently running 5 seconds behind Justify on the track. In the meantime, Drauga is closing the gap to C. Faulkner a little bit. C. Faulkner changed onto the mediums 3 laps ago, so he's definitely 2-stopping. I think both of these two are 2-stopping, although Drauga's got the benefit of 3 lap fresher tyres here, so is he going to have a crack here down the back straight? Surely he's going to have a good chance here to make this move into P6. And he now looks to the inside. C. Faulkner can't do anything about that, and Drauga moves up into 6th place. Is C. Faulkner going to have a chance to try and come back at him here down the main straight, as we now jump on board with the RB car? So here we come then into the final corner. Can he get a good exit? Not really good enough to be close enough to make a move. As you see, Rexy Boy in the pits to put the hard tyres on, probably going to the end. Freddie also in the pits, so Freddie looks like he's 2-stopping. But C. Faulkner's still falling back here from Drauga, who's just passed him down the back straight a few moments ago, and is now pulling out that gap there in P4. But in the meantime, it's Justify leading the race, having started on the hard tyres, still yet to pit, and I assume trying to go long here so he can do a 1-stop here in this race. We know the mediums can do 12 laps, but we've seen a disaster earlier in the race where Glenn had to come in after getting some sort of issue with the car. He was going backwards on his in-lap, and that was on lap 10, so we're not quite sure if it was the car or if it was the tyres, but he had a very quick pit stop, and it seemed like his change of tyres completely solved any issues, so I'm guessing it has to have only been a puncture for Glenn, which doesn't bode well for anybody who's planning on putting the mediums on before lap 18. But Justify staying out for the time being. In the meantime, G.C. currently on the back of Rexy Boy here as they're coming through the final corner. He's got the DRS here that will allow him to get that a little bit closer to the back of the Ferrari, but still a little bit too far away really to realistically make a move here. And holds position for the time being, as we're half distance here at Shanghai for the Chinese Grand Prix here at Purple Sector. The race developing into an exciting one strategically. Justify leads. He still needs to pit again for the medium tyres. Based on what we've seen from the mediums so far, he'll be wanting to go as long as he can on these hards before he puts those yellow marked mediums on. But he's gapped 10 seconds to Matty at the moment. He's got a pit stop because it's a long pit lane here, costs you a lot. It's about 20 seconds, so ideally he'd be wanting to, well, he'd be coming out at the moment ahead of Davidoff, so he'd be coming out in P5 as it stands, but obviously the longer you do on these worn tyres, the more you're going to be losing out to those who have pitted. So if he longs it out and extends to lap 18, let's say, that could be P6, maybe even P7. But Justify coming into the final corner. Is he pitting? Yes, he is. Justify comes in at the end of lap 15, so that's going to mean a 13 lap stint on the medium tyres, which is pretty ballsy. But in he comes. So Justify will be stopping in the box in a second. That'll promote Matty into the lead, and Mark's now into second place as Justify puts those medium tyres on. I wonder if some of these drivers who I assumed were going to be 2-stopping, I wonder if any of them plan on 1-stopping, as we see, as Justify just comes out ahead of Rexy Boy there. Davidoff just up the road there on the hard tyres. I wonder if Davidoff's planning on doing the distance on those hard tyres. I reckon they'll do it, but in what state is another question. But Justify nonetheless just ahead of Rexy Boy. Those two on similar strategies, and Justify is on fresher tyres, which is crucial there. Had to come in there and then, otherwise Rexy Boy would have jumped him. So yeah, good awareness there from Justify to bring it in just before the Ferrari would have got the jump. So Justify currently in a decent position, but a little way behind the likes of C. Faulkner, and Drauga as well is way ahead of Justify. So really made that undercut work an absolute treat here. So yeah, I mean, Justify's got a lot of work to do to catch up to Drauga, who's 6 seconds ahead on the same strategy, albeit with slightly quicker tyres. Justify has over Drauga. But yeah, Matty leads the race by 2.5 seconds from Mark. Drauga though is in a very strong position here. If he can get these tyres to the end, if he can't, could be another matter entirely. I'll tell you what, these tyres are going to be very, very shaky by the end, because to do 16 laps on a set of mediums, you're really pushing your luck. But Justify's got ahead of Davidoff. Davidoff on those 8 lap old hard tyres, Justify on his fresh mediums, making light work of the Aston. As Freddie there's lost out to T, as these two are battling here going into the final corner. These two have got a bit of history battling wheel to wheel. Freddie goes round the outside there with a beautiful move at the final corner. And who has DRS? Looks like neither of them have DRS. So yeah, a bit of a glitch on the game there, I'm sure. And Freddie there keeping ahead of T for the time being. White Shadows moved ahead of John up into P12 as well. But Justify now hunting down another driver here. C. Faulkner's going to be looking in his mirrors because his teammate is all over him. And is he going to let him past? Yes, he is. Which is understandable there, because obviously Justify on much fresher tyres and probably in the fight for the win, you would have thought. So their team orders there playing a peach there for Justify. In the background there you've got Rexy Boy now trying to, oh sorry, it's Davidoff and Rexy Boy trying to close on C. Faulkner here. Tyre performance between Faulkner and Davidoff should be pretty similar, because Davidoff on the hards 9 laps and C. Faulkner's done 7 laps on the mediums, so you'd think they'd be quite close in terms of degradation. So Davidoff might fancy a crack here at this RB driver. Rexy Boy is right with them as well here on fresher tyres than both of them. But a bit of a DRS train appearing here as Davidoff there goes a little bit deep going into the hairpin, and he might be vulnerable now to Rexy Boy, who's now going to look to the outside. He's got past coming down towards the final corner. Is he going to have the job done? He swoops into P6 there, does Rexy Boy. Although Davidoff, I think, will have DRS down the straight, will he? Does he? Oh, it's in the foreground there. Rexy Boy up the inside of Faulkner, but see Faulkner keeping it around the outside there into turn 1. G.C. is currently under pressure here from Clen, whose race kind of fell apart, didn't it? Coming in for that pit stop, had that puncture, which obviously dropped him about 10-15 seconds before he even got to the pits. And since then he's been on the back foot here. He's currently trying to get 8th place here. Could probably go to the end on these hard tyres, so that's not going to be an issue for him. His tyres will be in good nick when everyone else's are falling apart right at the end, but he's going to have to be patient in this one, is Clen. But Rexy Boy here trying to pile the pressure here on the back of C. Faulkner. Justify is closing in on the leaders. You can see he's only about 10 seconds off the lead at the moment. He'll have faster tyres as well. He's going to have to really push in his final few laps to get the win, that's for sure. Driver's got a penalty, that will help him out a bit. But we're watching about for P5 and 6 at the moment. C. Faulkner has got Rexy Boy breathing down his neck here. Is Rexy Boy going to be able to make this move into the hairpin? To the inside goes the Ferrari. And Rexy Boy's going to have that one done coming onto the brakes here. As in the background here we've got G.C. has got Clen looking around his outside here. Is Clen going to have this one done? He's going to surely look to try and hang it around the outside, but in the end can't get enough momentum here, as now G.C. going to have the going to hold on, and Freddie there we're getting around Clen. Clen's now got to come into the pits here, so has he got, I don't think he's got a penalty. I think it's just a tyre change or something. I really don't know, but Clen coming into the pits anyway, as Freddie got ahead of G.C. down the start finish straight and moves up into 7th place while we were just watching Clen there. Oh, as Freddie goes a bit deep though onto the grass. I think he has that one done though. His 5 lap pressure mediums there. getting him ahead of the Red Bull. So Freddie off into 7th place in all of that. In the meantime, gap between Matty and Mark staying the same. It's still around 2 seconds, and Matty has control at the moment, but who knows if Mark could take this fight to him. He's still going to be pretty much in striking distance if Matty were to make any mistakes, so I would say this race is still very much on here for the win. Justify closing the gap, but I don't know if he's just a bit too far away at this point. He's only 8 seconds off of the lead. He's bringing that gap down still at quite a rate. Could be on the cards here. But I think the top 2 contenders for this race would have got to be these two, Matty and Mark. So moving to the final third here of this Chinese Grand Prix. And we've got Drauga coming into the pits. So he is 2-stopping. So Drauga will be putting, I would have thought, another set of mediums on, maybe the softs, but the softs don't really work around here. That left rear soft gets absolutely destroyed after about 4 laps. Or at least it did on the F124 game. I haven't played it on this one, but I wouldn't have thought it'd be too dissimilar. So Drauga there's off and away once again. Gap at the front, still just under 2 seconds between Matty and Mark. It's staying pretty consistent. Mark is chipping away a little bit, but has Matty just got this covered? Matty knows what it takes to win a race or two here at Purple Sector. Has won many times, has won a championship 2 seasons ago. Can he weather this pressure here from Mark in the McLaren? Justify still holding that final podium spot. His gap now is down to 7 seconds to the race leader, so Justify is taking chunks out of the top 2 on those faster, fresher tyres, but obviously the mediums degrade much quicker than the hards, so is he going to be able to keep those tyres together until the checkered flag here? If he can, he might have a chance at winning this race, but it's going to be a hell of a task for him. As Davidoff is dropping a little bit off of Rexy Boy at this point. But Rexy Boy on the mediums, Davidoff might have a chance to come back at him at the end. As T here is looking close on the back of G.C. is going to now look to the outside as G.C. forces him to the outside here. And T is going to have this move done into the hairpin, surely. Yes, he does. Oh, as G.C. taps him in the rear there going into the hairpin, but T is going to have that one done easily. Up into 7th place is G.C. going to try and come back at him. No, he's into the pits here at the end of lap 21. So Rexy Boy, Davidoff and Freddie and also G.C. are all into the pits. So these guys who put the mediums on pretty early on are all coming into the pits. So Matty's still out the front here, just over a second is the gap to Mark at the moment. Justify still bringing the gap down, only about 6 seconds off the lead now, about a second a lap at the moment, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. Only 7 laps left to go here, so he's going to have to really push here in these final 7 laps if he's to have any chance of bringing the fight to this top 2. I think it's between Matty and Mark. Unless these two trip over each other, which is entirely possible, has to be said. They could slow each other down if they battle. But T, in the meantime, is right on the back of Drauga here in this battle for 4th place. These two have been battling for a few laps actually. Or, sorry, earlier on in the race should I say. They're currently battling over 4th place at the moment. Drauga, having come in for fresh tyres, I think should be able to pull away from T at least in the short term. So the battle is really out the front at the moment. got to keep an eye on Davidoff because he's pretty close on Rexy Boy at the moment. But we're also watching a battle out the front here as Mark tries to get within DRS range on Matty, but Matty, the last couple of laps, has started to respond a little bit to this pressure here. Mark has been bringing the gap down, but Matty has just extended a little bit over the course of this lap so far. Mark is going to have the slipstream here, but no DRS down the straight, as Justify's got the gap down to around 5 seconds, so continuing to gain at about a second a lap at the moment. That would be enough to be on their tail, and with DRS on the last lap, but is he going to have the tyres left to challenge, because we know those medium tyres are going to be shot to pieces come the final lap of the race. And Matty's in the pits. Wow, Matty is coming in, so Mark stays out. Matty, is this a gamble from Matty? He's got a free pit stop back to Drauga, so I suppose he can afford to do it. So Drauga's now coming around, and Matty is in the pits and off and away now, so he's now going to be heading towards the end of the pit lane. He's got a fresh set of mediums on. Is he going to come out ahead of Drauga? No, just behind him, because Drauga's got that undercut. So now it's absolutely fascinating to see what can happen here. Justify's got the tyre delta to Mark, not much though, but he is closing the gap. Unmistakably, he's closing that gap. But can Mark hold off Justify? Matty is going to be flying, so is Drauga, but Matty is going to be absolutely flying, and he's closing laps of the race, but I don't think he's going to have enough. I don't think he's going to be able to close in over 6 laps, closing in 20 seconds. I just can't see that happening. Personally, I think that's beyond what's possible here. I'm not quite sure Matty's reason for pitting so late in this race, but it looks like he might have just thrown the win away again. Well, I say again, obviously it was Freddie on Tuesday who pitted from second, ended up third, and Matty appears to have done the same thing here. Was it a late puncture around the last part of the lap? I don't quite know, but nonetheless, it's Mark who leads with a gap of 3 seconds over Justify, who came in a few laps ago for a set of mediums, is currently on a one-stop strategy and is looking to close this gap in the final few laps of the race. Matty has picked off Drauga up into 3rd place. There's no point for fastest lap, so it's not even like you're taking a point over 3rd place or whatever. So yeah, I don't quite know what that was all about from Matty. But anyway, Rexy Boys moved ahead of Davidoff up into 7th place. These two on the same strategy, same medium tyres, battling over P7 at the moment, not the position they'd be hoping to be battling over. They got a little bit fresher tyres than C. Faulkner, who's just up ahead of them. So this could be very quickly a battle for P6 here between these three. But C. Faulkner currently leading this train of cars here. Rexy Boy and Davidoff looking racy on the back of him here. C. Faulkner and Davidoff with penalties. Rexy Boy knows he just needs to make sure he's close to these two and he'll pick up P6 at the end of this race. Gap between the top two, Mark and Justify, is currently just over 2 seconds. Justify continuing to gain at around a second a lap here on those medium tyres. But the question is, are his tyres going to drop off? Because if they drop off, he's not going to be able to overtake Mark. He's not going to have the tyres to do so. But so Mark currently keeping him at arm's length at the moment, but for how much longer is he going to be able to do that as they come into the hairpin once again? So 4 laps left to go here in Shanghai for this Chinese Grand Prix as we come into the final corner once again here. So Mark there, 2.5 seconds. He seems to have extended a little bit through this final sector. Maybe Justify's tyres now starting to feel the pace a little bit here. They still should be quicker than Mark's on paper, but it should be quite close now to the crossover between where the mediums suddenly become the inferior tyre. At a certain point in the stint, they start to lose their performance rapidly. Are we hitting that point? Rexy Boy has got ahead of C. Faulkner into 6th. Faulkner now coming under pressure here from Davidoff. These two both with penalties. And that could be crucial come the checkered flag here as C. Faulkner getting close to the back of Rexy Boy in front of Davidoff, who we're watching on board with here. Davidoff's now going to look up the inside as C. Faulkner got it a little bit wrong through that section. Is this going to be dropped on for Davidoff? It is, and up into 7th place he goes there. Didn't waste a second there to Davidoff. Managed to capitalise on that little bit of a moment there from C. Faulkner. Very nicely done there from him. So 3 laps left to go here. Justify's gained about half a second on this lap, so not gaining as much as he was, but he's definitely quicker at this point. As Glenn there gets a 3-second penalty there for track limits, running in P9. Has had a very anonymous race since that problem in the first stint. Which, again, I think it has to have been a puncture, surely. He just dropped backwards over the course of one lap, lap 10 I think it was. He went from leading the race to being about 10 or 15 seconds off of the lead. And since then, hasn't really able to recover. I think that was a really demoralising situation for him. As Rexy Boy is battling with Davidoff. I'm just watching that one on a timing board. As Davidoff's moved back ahead of Rexy Boy up into P6. But Davidoff has that penalty, so he needs to pull out at least 3 seconds to Rexy Boy if he's to finish in P6 on the classification. But it looks to me out the front here like Mark, maybe now the pendulum's starting to swing in the favour of the hard tyres. Mark's been on these hard tyres for 14 laps, Justify's been on his mediums for 10. But now it seems like Justify's starting to lose a bit of grip here. The gap's not coming down by near as much as it was a few laps ago. Albeit through some corners the mediums still seem to have the advantage, but a lot of this track here, the hards, seem to now be the more stable, more dependable tyre, and Justify is going to have to do this, I think, on talent alone here, on pure grit. As we now come down the back straight once again, the gap the same at this time on this lap as what it was on the previous lap, and I think that Mark should be able to weather this storm at this point. Davidoff is almost a second ahead of Rexy Boy, so if he can break that DRS and pull out 3 seconds, Davidoff will be able to finish in P6 here tonight. Got to watch that one closely, as that one could be pretty decisive here tonight for that position. But the gap between Mark and Justify under 2 seconds as they start the penultimate lap of the race. So this is it then. Closing stages of this Chinese Grand Prix here at the Purple Sector Formula 1 League here for Season 13. As Justify's really gained through this section, you can see the gap's come down by about 3/10 just through that series of corners. But is it going to be enough here? If he can get himself in DRS, he gives himself a fighting chance here. As Davidoff has got ahead of T up into P5. Although with that penalty, could we see Davidoff potentially extend that gap to T and Rexy Boy? I'm sure that Davidoff will be hoping that T and Rexy Boy start fighting each other a little bit, and potentially that might allow him to pull out the gap enough to finish in 5th place. But we're watching the battle here for the lead, as Mark and Justify separated by just 1.2 seconds here. I think Justify is a little bit too far away to have the DRS down the back straight. That would be crucial here for him to really put that pressure on the race leader. Who knows what's going to happen though, as here we come then, out of the never-ending right-hander onto the back straight. The gap is 1.1, so Justify is just out of DRS, but he'll have the slipstream down this straight, which should allow him to get a little bit closer. As we come down to the hairpin once again, he'll have the DRS on the last lap. I don't think he's going to be close enough unless he has an absolutely sensational end to this lap and a really strong start to the next lap. So I think Mark's done enough here. But I don't want to speak too soon yet, as we're coming through the final corner, about to start the final lap of the race. Mark currently leads it. Justify only gained about a couple of tenths on that last lap, and I think that's probably going to give Mark enough to hold on here at the end. Into turn 1 we come for the final time here at Shanghai. Mark currently doing what he needs to do, as we see Justify always quicker through this part of the track. The mediums, even worn out mediums, seem to really excel over the hards through this part of the track. Although the gap 1.2 is just eking over the threshold that Mark needs it to be at here. Although Mark did go a bit wide there. He was definitely a little bit out of shape through that right-hander. but Justify not really capitalising through this series of these sweeping corners here through this middle sector here at Shanghai. Mark here just has to keep this together. Justify really closing up through this part of the track though. You can see these slow corners, the gap only just over a second. If Justify can just get a little bit more time through these couple of corners, then he'll have DRS down the back straight. Mark though keeping his nerve as he comes through this very, very long right hander, and Justify will have DRS. He will have DRS, but I think he's too far away to be able to make it to good use. So Mark should be okay here coming into the hairpin. The RB will have DRS, but I think he's too far away to make good use of it as we come now down towards the hairpin for the final time. Mark is going to hold on here, and what a fantastic drive it has been from Mark. Ended up second on the grid, did a phenomenal job after his first lap crash on Tuesday night for the opening round of the season in Australia. He's responded in the perfect way possible. Up towards the line comes Mark, and it's going to be the checkered flag. It's going to be the race win tonight for Mark. The first time I've seen him win a race here at Purple Sector. Well done to Mark, with Justify over in second place. Matty's going to come over to complete the podium here tonight with Drauger out of the final corner. It's going to be P4 here for Drauger. Davidoff is going to finish 5th on the track, or is he? Yes, he is, but he's not going to get it on the classification due to the penalty. So it's going to be Rexy Boy 5th, Davidoff 6th, with C Faulkner over the line to finish this one in 7th place. Clem over in, oh no, forget all of that. T was 7th, C Faulkner was 8th, Clem was 9th, and G.C. there taking the final points paying position. Street Boy a long way behind here in 11th place. Is just coming down the back straight now, so Street Boy will be crossing the line soon, with John not too far behind him. White Shadow Hole there running in P13 on this final lap of the race. But Street Boy through the hairpin we go, and just this final corner to negotiate here for the Ferrari driver. As there he is, over the line comes Street Boy, P11 for him. John out of the last corner, or into the last corner, now out of it, P12. And White Shadow into the final corner, and P13 here for White Shadow Hole tonight. But big shout out to this man Mark, who is a race winner here at Purple Sector tonight, and did a really good job there, holding his nerve under tremendous pressure there from Justify at the end, but didn't falter, didn't let that affect him as he negotiated that final lap there. Really, really well on those tyres, those hard tyres, which had gone a fair distance to be fair, but Justify's mediums just, I think, went off a little bit too much there in the final couple of laps. He wasn't really gaining that much on Mark in the last couple of laps, and Mark was able to see it out. But well done to Mark. What a great win, and congratulations to the podium finishers there, Justify and Matty Pitt. Thanks everybody for tuning in, the drivers. If you enjoyed watching this back, then yeah, glad you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next week for Tuesday night. We'll be back on as always for Purple Sector at 8 PM, round 3 of the season. But do I want to say where it is? Do I want to guess? I think it's Japan. I think it's Suzuka. If it's not, then yeah, I'm not giving you my address. Anyway, thanks everybody, and we'll see you all in the next one.